at the doctors when they came in at 7:30 in the morning. Many of them maybe held jobs which started very early in the morning, and they could not afford to take days off, so they wanted to see the doctor very, very quickly. And they would turn up at 5 a.m. and some were elderly, and there were no proper seats for them at all. So we investigated based on that picture, and we realized that it was an occurrence in several other polyclinics as well.
Most people will be asleep at 5:20 a.m. in the morning. So what exactly is this man doing outside Geylang Polyclinic on a Wednesday?
Please, somebody will come before me or after me, they'll put the paper.
Some people read the newspapers or sat around chit-chatting. By 6:45 a.m. the queue is longer, with more people streaming in.
The government took note of this, and very quickly seats were put in place at these polyclinics, and more importantly, the doors were opened earlier.
The lesson for STORM, for other newspaper group, is that they ought to get out of the box and go into areas where they can truly engage with readers online and get this connectivity that may be limited if you just restrict yourself to a very traditional online version of the newspaper.
One important point to keep in mind, as you saw in the video, STOMP does not simply provide an open-ended access to the website or the newspaper, but retrains the critical filter of editors who check for accuracy and good taste, and assign professional journalists to follow up on reader tips and initial reports. The inmates do not run the asylum. Managing all the changes that are needed to transition from the way we have always done it to the way we need to do it takes leadership, initiative, and above all, across-the-board cooperation. Innovation co-founder Carlos Soria writes that the first step is to sweep away old habits, misconceptions, and recalcitrance and start afresh. He offers 11 points that are worth recapping here. Top-down leadership is essential. Recognize that the internet is not a new medium, but a new digital matrix, one that brings together all media, present and future. Break down internal barriers and make the strategic decision to integrate off- and online operations. No more vertical silos. Make sure that newsrooms follow the rhythm of news flows. Change traditional approaches to newsroom management. Teach the newsroom not to fear technology. Easier said than done, but critically important. Recognize that 1 + 1 = 4. A strong online and print combination is worth more than its component parts. Realize that readers want more than just news. They want to be part of the process. They want to participate. They want to communicate in the broadest sense of the word. Hire multitaskers. Apply new concepts to newsroom design. Follow the pattern of a lava flow or an oil slick. New approaches and new techniques, new skills and new visions. These will spread slowly through the newsroom, overcoming occasional bumps in the terrain, adjusting to the staff's adaptability. But no matter how many changes are introduced, care must be taken not to destroy the newspaper's fundamental DNA. One place where a lot of this has happened, creating one of the world's most exciting and innovative newsrooms, is at the Daily Telegraph in London. Let's have a look.
Well, the key word is integration, which means everyone is here together. This is the Telegraph Media Group newsroom, not the newspaper group or the website group. It's one newsroom for both platforms. So, first of all, it means everyone's together. And I think a big newsroom like that works if there's a centre of gravity. And that's what we have with the Hub, which is a very large round table around which we hold main conferences, but also during different points in the day, key players in the publishing process can gather around and talk about events as they happen. So that's the sort of key element in the newsroom. And then as you spread out with all the desks arranged around the Hub, once upon a time you might call them departments in different rooms on different floors. They're all now on the same floor, radiating around the Hub, so all the different department heads can talk to each other, all the different journalists can talk to each other and talk to the production staff very easily. That sounds very simple, but actually in terms of the working day, it's very, very important.
Well, an integrated newsroom to us is about having your key editors responsible for the content not only in the newspaper but also on the web and in digital format. So for example, if you're Keith Perry, our sports editor, and you're planning a major event like the Rugby World Cup, you're not only thinking about providing a killer package for the newspaper, but you're also thinking about the words that you file for the website, the video that you want to accompany to illustrate the World Cup coverage of day in, day out, whether you want to have podcasts to help sort of people download the material and listen to it on their way to work. And it's about combining that content both on the web and in the newspaper.
So we have to think a little bit more imaginatively and a little bit more laterally about how we can make stories come alive in the newspaper, but particularly make use of technology. I've been given a toolbox and I've got to use it, and I've got to persuade my staff to use that toolbox. So we've got to get people, and I've got to invigorate and inspire people to use the website, to use the audio, the radio that we do, and to use the TV as well, so that we can give the Telegraph community, the users, a much richer environment.
Well, for us, digital is all about telling stories different ways, and it's about weighing up how best to tell a story. So obviously our legacy as a company, as a 150-year-old newspaper company, is to tell stories with words, and that's our strength. We're particularly strong on news and commentary, but increasingly now it's also about how to tell the story with video. We believe that video has a very important role to play.
Hello, you're watching Telegraph TV, and this is a special budget edition of the Business Show.
And user-generated content, which is sort of jargon for getting our readers involved in helping to discuss and debate and tell stories. So it's really, I think, the future for us, and at least in the digital arena, will be about combining print, words, with video and user-generated content. It's how you stitch those three things together that's the key.
The introduction of the new newsroom has obviously brought about a lot of change. Has it been difficult to operate? Well, it's been a big challenge, but I think it's not been that difficult as long as you train people properly and as long as you prepare people properly for it. If you give them plenty of advance notice that these things are happening and give them the capabilities to do it, then you will find that people, as I said, rise to the challenge and will come along with you. I think the important point is to communicate your strategy, come up with a plan in the first place, communicate it, and then people will follow you, because as we know, in the fast-moving media world, nobody knows more than journalists that change is ahead and they need to really address it. We know about advertising revenues, we know about a fragmenting readership. Journalists want to do something about it, so if you give them a plan and a strategy that they can follow very clearly, then you find that actually people are very self-motivated to do it.
The big picture for us is that our traffic is growing very rapidly. According to Hitwise, we have the most visits by UK readers to our news website among our competitors, among our peers of newspaper groups. We use this jargon touch points. It's really a way of conveying to people that we have multiple deadlines through the day. And the reason why we have multiple deadlines through the day is because people want news in large volumes at different points in the day, most particularly early in the morning, say between sort of 8 and 10 a.m, and then around lunchtime, and then what the Americans will call drive time, sort of 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's really about getting people focused on making sure that we have high quality content at each of those points. There's another overlay to that, which is the kind of content that people want probably varies a little bit during the day. And early in the morning it's about getting the sort of the hard and fast rush of key news points, particularly if you're in the business community. And then at lunchtime people perhaps want the hard and fast news, but also a little bit of leisure. And then by the end of the day, it's mostly leisure.
Obviously, when you introduce changes like this, you're never quite sure how people are going to respond, and that was always an uncertainty for us. But if you look at this kind of environment, you give people a superb place to work, a new place to work, which has been